So, welcome to today's live stream. My name is Jared Nguyen. I am the founder and director of Geometry Gurus SAT. The hope of these videos that I create for you guys in this Facebook group, in this channel, if you guys are watching it on YouTube, is that I want to provide you guys so much value that one day you guys want your teens to work with my company. Okay, that's the reason why we do these live streams. Now, in the next 5-10 minutes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be providing you exactly why your teen is not increasing their SAT score, even though they've tried a bunch of things already, and exactly what you should be doing about it. Okay? So, today what I'm going to be talking about, the first reason why, and I'm not going to give you guys like anything about mentality. Some students, no matter what you do for them, they're not going to improve their score anyway because they just don't want it. This is assuming that your teen tries hard. This is assuming that your teen is, just has tried a lot of things prior and it just are not improving their scores. Okay? So the first reason why I see that students don't increase their SAT score is because the first thing that they do is they do a diagnostic. Yeah, I always say in my channel that, hey, you want to make sure you diagnose in your hand and enhance. You want to figure out where your strengths and where your weaknesses. And a lot of parents, a lot of students, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we did do that. You actually didn't. Here's what I mean by that. Okay, a lot of people, they go to the blue book, right? Or they go to a test prep center and they see that, okay, they show you the bars, right? On the blue book, they show like, oh, I'm 4 bars out of 5 bars on advanced math. Oh, I'm 4 bars out of 5 bars in standard English conventions, right? And they're thinking like, oh, I need to work on standard English conventions, or oh, I need to work on advanced math. What part? What part of advanced math and what part of standard English conventions do you need to work on? Guys, there are over 50 subtopics on every single SAT. Okay? It's not just the 9 that they gave you on the College Board. The College Board wants you to take the test again. Okay, that's how they make extra money. If everyone has to take the test once or twice more, I mean, what do you think that does for their company? Oh, it does a lot for them. Okay, so we need to wake up in terms of that. But also, we just need to remember, guys, that just because you know, like, oh, I have 4 out of 5 bars on a certain topic, that doesn't narrow down at all what you need to do. Okay, so let's say you figure out, oh, okay, I need to work on, advanced math, right? What goes into advanced math? You have quadratics. You have exponential roots. You have exponential functions. You have all these other topics that you guys just aren't tackling, okay? And even if you figured out, hey, what about those actual, like, what parts of quadratics do I need help on? What parts of exponential functions do I need help on? That's really, really important as well. And that's also not what you're getting from what you're learning right now. Like from what you're doing right now, you're just taking a test and you're hoping that it'll review all your weaknesses. It won't. That's why step number 2 is so important. Step number 2 is what we call here apply and practice. So that's why it's so important to get step 1 down. Because if you don't know what step 1 is, if you don't know why you're sick, then we can't give you any medicine to get you, to cure you. Okay, so that's why it's important. We need to know down to the subtopic, what do you actually need help on, right? And then give you real SAT problems that mimic those same weaknesses so that you end up getting, that way you end up plugging all the holes that you have right now, and that way you keep on plugging the holes, and eventually, right, your weaknesses become your strengths. Okay, but people still do this wrong. People still do this wrong. They think that, oh, I need help on quadratics. Let me just do nothing except for quadratics. That's not true. Okay, because here's why. You're missing an underlying concept with quadratics as well. If you're just talking about quadratics, right, but you don't understand how to factor, which is an algebra thing, if you don't know how to find zeros, which is another algebra thing, oh, all of a sudden that exposes a completely different weakness that you haven't seen before, right? So it's not enough to just practice those quadratics. You need to figure out, hey, what do I got to do to lead up to those quadratics? Where are the holes that I need to fill that are preventing me from being able to solve those quadratics? Okay, so that's a very important thing. Same thing with standard, with English as well, right? If you go take a test and you say, oh yeah, I need help with words in context, and we just give you a bunch of words in context problems and it's like, here, go ahead and do it, then you're not going to get anywhere. You know why? Because there's a lot of things that go into words in context as well. Vocabulary, syntax, what else? Like, what is the underlying root cause of what you guys are trying to accomplish? It's not just going to be, oh, I need help in words in oh, I need help in words in context. It doesn't work like that, okay? We need to break it down. Like, we have to first figure out where in your foundation is shaky, right? That's like, if you have like a house, right, and the walls keep falling down, you're probably going to be look at the walls first. You'd be like, hey, what the heck is going on? Why are my walls falling down? But then you didn't realize that your base has you're building on soil. You're building on soil, and that's why you're failing at that. Okay. Now the third reason why, and I'm going to keep this one short, guys, because really it's simple. It's not sexy, but it's simple. All right. The third thing that I see a lot of students get wrong is that they don't simulate the exam properly. Okay, they don't simulate the exam properly. Oh, it's like, Jared, I got a 1600 on the blue book, or my kid got a 1600 on the blue book test, but then I took the actual test and I'm like, oh my god, what the heck happened, right? Well, yeah, no kidding. I'm gonna ask you. The first thing is, hey, how did you study for it? How did you actually do that test? And they're telling me, oh, I did it in my living room, right? My sister was right next to me. My TV was on, music was playing in the background. I was like, you didn't you didn't simulate the exam at all. That's not what's gonna happen on the exam, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's like, did you have anything else? I was like, oh yeah, I was on my phone during the break. I was looking up concepts. I was like, what are you doing? I'm not joking, guys. This is a legitimate thing that I hear from students sometimes. It's like, that's exactly how they practice it. That's not going to work for them. Okay, you need to put them in a pressurized environment, right, that actually simulates the exam. But also, guys, we need to remember that the blue book is not the only thing that's out there right now. Okay, the blue book right now, let's be honest, I mean, we see it all in these forums that we're in. Is they're like, oh, the blue book doesn't actually simulate the exam. The blue book isn't as hard as the actual SAT. And more often than not, I believe in them, right? I believe them. I think that yeah, you're right. It's like, and that's why you got to make sure you're practicing harder problems, harder tests, and then that way, by the time you take the SAT, you're only taking one step down, and then that's how you're gonna know you're gonna be, good to go. Okay, so to sum up step number two, or step number three, you gotta make sure that number one, you're actually practicing in a test-like environment, and you're practicing problems and exams that are a lot harder than the SAT. Not so hard where it doesn't even make sense to practice them, but you guys get what I'm trying to say. Okay, so that's it, guys. Those are the top 3 reasons why students don't get the scores that they want and how exactly to fix them. Just to do a quick recap, because I saw some people join the live stream a little bit late. Step number 1, if you're not diagnosing and enhancing correctly, you're going to get screwed on the exam. You got to make sure that you're breaking it down to the subtopic. What actually do they need to help? They need work on. Okay, not just like the big broad 9 that the blue book or the College Board gives you. Okay. Step number 2, when you're applying and you're practicing, right? You're practicing problems that mimic your same weaknesses. You got to make sure that you're not just hammering away at the actual weakness face value. You got to make sure that you're actually working on the underlying concepts and the underlying reasons why your teen is not understanding that concept. And step number 3, which is what we just said, is you want to make sure you simulate the exam in a test-like environment. You're not doing the test for the sake of doing it, and most importantly, you're working on problems that are going to be harder than the exam, so that when you come down to the exam, you're not very nervous anymore. Okay. All right, guys, that's everything that I wanted to go over today. Again, whole purpose of these live streams is to, number 1, give you guys so much value that, hey, maybe one day you want to work with my team, or number 2, even if you don't, make sure that your team gets the SAT scores that they want. Okay. If you guys want a free diagnostic test that exposes those 50-something weaknesses that your team needs to have, or the 50-something weaknesses that need to be exposed before your team goes to the exam, make sure you comment on this video, Diagnostic, or you send me a straight DM, and I'll be more than happy to send that over to you guys. Okay, have a great rest of your day. Talk to you guys soon.